Yeah, this is good.
Okay. All right. Start with you, David, please.
Sure. Mike, what was in your message to the players today? Did it have more to do with an assessment of this season, or was your focus on what your expectations were and what you wanted them to do going forward?
The message was more about moving forward. I had a chance to talk to him last night and pretty much visit with mostly everybody last night in the locker room. I mean, that's frankly why I was running late to the press conference. Today was more about administrative procedure things that what's in front of us, but more about what we need to do moving forward and the amount of work that's in front of us, and really just wanting to shift gears and move our eyes to 2021. So, with that, you have to go through start your evaluation process, and that's what we started today with the opportunity to sit down with each player. I haven't met with every player yet. I've met with 32 players today, and then we'll do the rest of the roster tomorrow. And and just everybody in football operations is starting the evaluation process. So that was a long answer, but that's really what the message was about.
Mike, when you understanding you look at it more here going forward, but just in a quick glance back on this season, do you feel that injuries were the overriding reason that this team didn't achieve what you hoped for it to achieve in your first year? And if so, do you have to guard against this belief or assumption that, once we get healthy players back, we should be in pretty good shape?
Well, no, I think that's an excellent point. I think you can't help or can't blame, some of our people here in the building to think that, as soon as we get everybody back in combination with all the young players and all the individuals that played this year, that we will be in great shape next year. You can clearly understand where that opinion would come from. So, but I do think one of the primary challenges clearly was the injuries. I think as anything in this game, injuries are part of it. But when they happen and who they happen to, and it does create a big challenge on the course, the path of your season. So I mean, everybody had to deal with the COVID challenge, the pandemic, and restrictions, and really, I felt our football operations did a tremendous job, navigating all the different changes in that area. So I think that was definitely a plus of, and a lot of credit goes to, our football operation people for what they've done, and really what our players and coaches and support staff, what they, and their families did to make this happen. But yeah, injuries, hopefully it's, they come in bunches sometimes, but I always felt when they come and who they come to is the part you hope you're in position to navigate that challenge.
Can you give us an update on Dak Prescott, if you have one, where he is with his injury and when do you expect him back? And can you also, how much are you looking forward to having a full offseason of working with him? You didn't really have that last year.
I'm definitely looking forward to working with Dak full time. He's here every day, going through rehab. He's making progress, and just as you expect, he's going after it full speed. So, as far as the timeline, I don't have the specifics on when he's going to be doing on the field work and dates and things like that. I don't have that for you, but I do know based on the plan for his surgery and what he's supposed to be doing and where he is. I mean, everything is right on course.
Mike, when we spoke to you yesterday, you hadn't had a chance to rewatch that Dante Pettis catch. Have you had a chance to now? And if so, with the benefit of replay from different angles, do you feel any different about the call?
Yes, I have had a chance to watch the play. What was the last part of the question? Can you give me the last part?
Do you feel any different about the decision, or if you were able to see it from the angles you've now seen it from, do you think you would have made a different call?
Oh, I think if I had the chance to see the front angles, just going back through the process, and I clearly understand the other side of the story and what was seen, after the fact, and all the semantics that go into that decision. But if it was definitely a play you would consider challenging, I'm still not convinced that it would have been overturned. Because my experience has been, unless it's clear cut, it usually they usually stick with the decision on the field. But I clearly see what everybody else saw after the fact, and understand the variables that were involved, being in the scoring zone and all of that. So, but challenging plays is a process, and we have a good process in place. We spend a lot of time working on our game management, and there's a video education segment we do each and every week. So, and this is like everything this season has presented to us. It's unique. It's been challenging, and I think clearly we all have a lot of work to do, and this will be part of our evaluation process as we continue to move forward and start building our plan for next year.
And going back to Dak for a minute, how much does his contract situation complicate your ability to work with him in the off season, if at all? Or will you be able to continue planning with him?
I can't really answer the contract question. I mean, from what I see and from where I am, I'm very confident that we're gonna get that worked out. My conversation and time with Dak is always very positive, and always talking about the focus on what the future holds, as far as what we're going to do on offense, the team, and his leadership and so forth. So I mean, as far as how and when and that's going to happen, I really don't have that information for you.
Mike, what do you think this team needs to not be in situations like you are today where the season's over?
Well, I think like anything, you have to start over. I think every year is different. Every team is different. I could just tell you, have an opportunity to meet with our veterans, 4 years or more today, just the positive energy and vibe that these men have towards what we're doing, how we're doing it, and to a man, they're all looking forward to the next challenge. But we need to go back and start on page one. That's just the way I've always done it. I think when you take things for granted and you assume, you're really setting yourself up to failure. And I just go back to my first answer to David's question is, we have a lot of work to do, and I recognize that, and it's important for me to get all the information, answers, out of this evaluation process, so that I can sit down with Jerry and we can set the course.
And in terms of setting that course, how much do you think there would be a benefit of a quote normal offseason where you have these guys around starting in March, April, going through OTAs, mini camps, and things like that, and not having it this year?
Oh, I think I'm praying for one. I mean, I can't go back and change what happened this past year. I mean, it was most unique challenge I've been through in the National Football League. Just a combination of challenges. So I'm hopeful and that we'll have some semblance of a normal off-season program. And frankly, if we don't, we'll definitely have an experience to learn from last year's experience, because there's some things we need to take a hard look at as far as our virtual process and make sure that we're hitting the targets there. And we do have that year of experience and some of the virtual timelines and the Monday Tuesdays here, particularly at the end of the season that we had to adhere to that we can definitely learn from and be better at.
Mike, I think you shared with us before the season your philosophy of molding schemes around the talents and strengths of players. Do you believe that happened with the defense, or was there a little bit of a misfit in maybe some places?
I think our biggest challenge early on defense was just more about clarity in communication. I felt that, just to generalize it, because like most things, when you're having a lot of success or when you're not having success, it's in my experience, it's not just one thing. But I think that the clarity and the communication was a product of us not playing fast, and with that, our confidence wasn't where it needed to be, because the fact is, the way we played here down the stretch, it was the same defense, it was the scheme, and I think our players played with a whole different level of confidence and understanding, the last 8 games compared to the first 8 games.
What kind of timeline will there be for discussions about your staff, Mike included?
Well, I don't have a timeline, or I'm more focused on the final evaluation process, and I think there's a newness obviously for me, and there's definitely a newness for everybody else as far as my process and how how we go about this. So I'm in a mode of conversation. It's important for me to talk to everybody, and then you start having cross conversations and all those things. I don't have a timeline for you.
Mike, obviously you and Coach Nolan are very close. How did you assess how he made the necessary adjustments to kind of get your defense going a little bit down the stretch of the season?
Well, I think that's all part of this process we're going through, because I think you have to go back and look at the things that happened early and how we were able to transition into this last 8 weeks. But my number one priority, and it's always been that way as a football team, is to win the turnover differential, and the history speaks for itself. And our last 4 weeks, especially, we've done a tremendous job of taking the ball away. So, we have the first part in order, and I think that's that. With that, we took a huge step defensively.
When you first got hired, you were putting your staff together, and you didn't get to the Senior Bowl. But now that your season's over and you're evaluating your roster, obviously, will you guys plan to go to the Senior Bowl this year? Have you even had those discussions yet with your staff and the personnel people?
That's an excellent question. I had a brief conversation with Will McClay on the plane last night about the Senior Bowl and just some of the guidelines behind that. But we haven't set that plan yet.
What kind of job do you feel George Edwards did in his season with the franchise, and what was your level of familiarity with him on a personal or working relationship prior to the season?
Well, I thought George did a very nice job. It's once again this is part of our process that we're going through. It's there's interviews throughout our coaching staff with players. So that's something that we're looking at. And as far as my personal experience, I've had the opportunity to compete against George for so many years when he was in Minnesota, and so I've always had great respect for how those defenses played, and he obviously was a big part of that.
What's your process like personally and as an organization to when you're meeting with players for their exit meetings? establish benchmarks so that they are as productive as you want them to be toward a certain goal over these few months where you're not going to have them inside your building?
Well, I think, as far as an overview, you take the 360 approach. I mean, every part of our, football operation, as far as how we interact, coach, everything that's done with the players in mind is going to be evaluated and vice versa. So I think this is a time to collect the information and at the end of the day, when they do come back in April, hopefully that stays the same, as far as a normal off-season program starting, then, you have specific focal points for each player, and it's you build a plan. It's individualized, but it's everything that touches the player needs to be clear on what the expectations are, and to make sure that we're getting the best out of all of our people, and clearly make sure we're giving these players the best chance to be successful.
Dalton Schultz led all Cowboys in avoided tackles as a receiver this year per PFF. Since he took over the starting role in week 2, what's been your overall impression of Schultz's production this season as a blocker and a receiving threat? Well,
his blocking just continued to improve throughout the season, and I really felt that he's probably, I obviously wasn't here last year, but I can't say enough about the progress that he made throughout the year. I mean, his yards after the catch, breaking tackles, very savvy in the passing game, has a great understanding of everything that we're doing in the run, protection, and pass. So I was very pleased with the way Dalton played throughout the year, and fought through some bumps and injuries throughout the season. So, but this is part of that final evaluation process, and we'll go back through every player's every game, every grade, every aspect of his game. But I think definitely when Blake went down, Dalton definitely stepped up and took full advantage of this opportunity.
The defense seemed to improve as the season wore on against misdirection and motion. Jamarcus Lawrence made the comment earlier today that once players became more determined and comfortable with their individual assignments, things evolved. What are your thoughts on the defense's development this year in defending and adjusting to motions?
Yeah, I think DeMarcus, I agree with his opinion and his outlook on it. I mean, it's, a huge part of all the shift in motion that's, in our league now is to, challenge the eye discipline of the defense, also to try to create favorable angles in the run game and create misdirection opportunities to create, leverage in the passing game. So, and I think it's like a lot of things in our league. You have trends that you have to stay on top of, and and I agree. I think our players got more comfortable with it. They also see it in the competitive periods, with our offense, because we do quite a bit, motion and shifting ourselves.
Mike, understanding you're always looking to upgrade on both sides of the ball, but when you look at the free agents who come up and just where you are from a personnel standpoint at this stage, would you say you have a little more work to do this offseason on the defensive side of the ball as far as getting players that fit what you want and just the sheer numbers there?
David, frankly, I'm not there yet. Haven't really started to go down that path. I've always put a high priority on self-scout and make sure we don't miss the opportunity to improve from within. I've been a part of some decisions where we may have, let a young player go too early, and he went on to have success, and that's something I've always personally tried to focus on as a head coach. So, and I just keep going back to this, this evaluation process here. This is a chance to to get in front and talk to your players, in depth, really have more of a personal conversation with some of these guys that, it's just because of the nature of this season. So I'm more focused, leaning towards more of a self-scout mode right now.
And I believe earlier you used the word unique to describe this season. Was it also the most challenging season you've ever been through as a coach? And I wouldn't use the word overwhelmed, but was there ever a sense of what other side are we going to get hit with now? And how do we handle this? And how do we make sure that the players don't feel like they're being hit from all sides and this has gotten away from them?
I think we can agree on using the two words, and we can call it uniquely challenging. It just was, something that you never totally had your hands around the changing environment of your workplace. And I think, like all of us, especially in this industry, you really put your time and energy and you bite into the things you can control and really to have one of the primary components that helps you prepare for success be a moving target. It's it was definitely something that none of us have experienced. So I don't like the word overwhelming because it puts you in a mode where you didn't think you could handle it. I think we did more than handled it. Because I do admire and respect particularly our players, but really our staff for everything that they've done to make this season get to this point. And it's about winning. Don't get me wrong. I clearly understand our record and everything, but there was a lot of things that we didn't see coming, and you have to just kind of react on the fly. And I think our instincts and our awareness and how we handled each situation was able to get us through the season.
Given all the challenges, and there were a lot certainly that you didn't expect coming into taking this job, how do you evaluate the job you did? What grade would you give yourself on how you handled this season?
Well, I mean, I don't have grades to hand out today, but I'm evaluating everything that we've done. I've had 30 plus conversations today, and we've talked about individual drills to everything that we've done here compared to other experiences. So and that's ultimately my responsibility. So I just really go back to we have a lot of work to do, and that's starting with me. It doesn't look the way I want it to look. But I think we're definitely headed in the right direction. I think we got as far as we could as far as our operation and getting the team ready to prepare and do the things that you need to do each and every year. But I definitely know we could be better in some areas, and that's really where my focus is.
Mike, when we asked DeMarcus Lawrence about his first season with you today, he mentioned that you're always honest with the players and not afraid to tell them their flaws. What are some examples of times that you've been really honest, even if it's been tough, with guys during this season?
There's things that you have to do professionally and clearly. You start with expectations in everything you do, expectations in the classroom, expectations on the practice field, and, expectations as a professional. And frankly, when those expectations weren't to the standard that we feel is in line with the representing the Dallas Cowboys, I told them about it, and it's just something that you have to do and continue to grow your culture and get it to be the way you want it to be and the way you want it to function. So I don't have specifics, and I think I don't really like to put that stuff out there, but it's just there's a way we do things, and I just feel like if you're honest and direct, like my father always told me, if you tell the truth, you only have to tell your story once, and that's the way I've always coached.
And how would you assess how your special teams did this year? You've mentioned how many young guys have played on that unit, but how would you assess what John Fossil has done?
If without going through this final evaluation process, I mean, just as you look to, grades as we do weekly grades and so forth, they would be our best unit, as I sit here today. I think it's also very impressive to think that we had 5 rookies start on the punt team, and you don't really see anybody come after us with the punt rush. So I mean, I think that also speaks to what people were think of us as far as the respect of what what our capabilities are. So a lot of good things to build off of this year in special teams, and especially with the youth and the fact that he's got the experience that we'll be able to push forward with, on both our veterans and our young players.
Mike, you're closing in on your 1-year anniversary of getting this job. Knowing what you know now after going through this season, do you feel like this team is close to competing for a championship?
I think every year, when you start your journey to the outlook, I think that's. I mean, I don't know why you would be in this business if you didn't think you could win a championship. I mean, that's just the way I've always approached it. That's the way I learned from Marty Schottenheimer back in 1993. You always line up and start to build through the player acquisition process, the off-season programs and all that. But the eye's always on trying to win the world championship. So I mean, I don't think that approach should, or that outlook should ever change. Frankly, I'm not going to talk about it as much anymore because I feel like it's wasted time and energy. But that to me, that'll always be the goal. I don't know why you'd even want to compete in the National Football League if that wasn't your goal.
And what impact do you think Jalen Smith had this year, and where does he need to improve to become a better player in 2021?
Well, I think Jalen, did a lot of good things. I mean, especially he made the move to will linebacker, and the ability to have Leighton play Mike is something that was a good change for us. But once again, I'm not really into final evaluation mode right now. That's part of the process. But I thought Jalen, the fact that he lines up every day, he practices hard every day, he plays hard. I mean, I thought he gave us some big time productive games, and I think he's probably one of the ones that was challenged the most, and as far as the scheme change, and I just love his approach and the way he's gone about it for us.
Mike, a popular topic outside the building has been that are Zeke's better days behind him, obviously predicated on the workload he had early in his career. How does the Zeke that you saw up close compare to the one you used to prepare for from the other sideline, and how much juice do you think Zeke has left?
I've been very impressed with Zeke from day one in person. I'm not. I don't have the concerns that the outside opinion has. I think it's been a tough year, and as far as running the ball and the way we ran the ball, just compared to maybe some of his past experiences. But no, I have no concerns about Zeke. I think he's still a big time player and will continue to be a feature component of our offense.
You guys did exit interviews, some of them today, and as you said, some of them tomorrow. Can you continue to map out a little bit what this week looks like for you and your staff, what the coming weeks look like for you and your staff, and when decisions in terms of the coaching staff need to be, you'd like to make those?
Yeah, I mean, I was asked this question earlier. I don't have a timeline on the whole the evaluation process. I mean, we'll have player meetings, and then there's also coaching and player meetings and coordinator and position meetings, and I'll have coordinator meetings, and then I'll eventually have coordinator position meetings. So we're just going to grind through it and work through it and take as long as it needs to take.
Mike, what's your message to Cowboy fans? Obviously, it was a tough year for you, but your message to the Cowboy fans who are so disappointed in the season and expected more.
Well, I think like anything, I clearly understand the responsibility that I have to this organization and to the fans, and I can just assure you that we're doing everything the right way. We're being diligent, in our process to be a championship football team. And I get the disappointment. This is clearly not the way any of us anticipated the outcome of this season. But I think we have to recognize, and it's just the facts. This was as David would say, a uniquely challenging season. Like hopefully we never experience again.
If normality was restored in 2021 of what a typical offseason and typical season looked like, which component would you be most eager to welcome back?
Which component?
Be it the on-field workouts in the spring, be it just traditional social distancing around the building, be it in-person news conferences, which I know is not the answer. But which part of normalcy would you be most eager to welcome back?
I'd be eager to welcome back anything that gives us more time on the field and more time together as a football team. Is that it? Okay, thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.